everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Queens. I'm your host, Pamela Nicole, and I've got my gorgeous co-host,
Nia J in the building.
Guys, we have a special treat for y'all today. We got the beautiful founder of the ISC Wellness, plant-based chef, and author of The Science of High Intensity Interval Training. Let's give it up for Miss Ingrid Clay. Welcome to the show, girl.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to start off, first, you're a beautiful Black woman, very pronounced, profound. And I know you have a background in physics. You don't really hear about that very often with women. So, what fascinated you about science growing up? Like, what made you go to physics?
Wow. Well, partly my dad was in engineering and he taught engineering. But also there was always a fascination on how things work. I remember when I was a lot younger, I took apart I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I took apart the VCR and then I put it back together. Like I always had a fascination with how things work, how things move in the universe. And I think that whole energy study kind of like correlates with like the energy we share with each other, because to me, it's all science. So that's kind of how it started. And it came a little easy. I hate to say it, but it did. It came a little easy because it made sense. It's math. Yeah. So that was kind of how I did that. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's so interesting because our brains work so differently, Can you kind of elaborate on how, as a small girl, you correlated that to the body? Because when you're saying like you learned how to put things together, physics kind of describes every little thing being put together. So how do you correlate that to the human body and like your, fascination with fitness and health? So it's in physics, you learn about, gravity, you learn about angles, you learn, and I'm going to get really nerdy. You learn about like different vectors, how you hold things. And weightlifting to me is how you hold things. I can work several different parts of your back depending on where I'm angling you, where you're holding the weight, how you're pulling the weight up. So you're able to get, I feel, very more specific about what body parts you're hitting, how you're hitting it. When I think about, let me just use this as an example because I saw it the other day. There's this one exercise everybody does where they lean up against something and then they start doing this little lifting thing, right? I hate it. Because it defies physics. It is not, to me, it's not a real exercise. If you take that exercise and you lay down, now you're 100% working against gravity in both directions. So to me, that makes more sense. So when I think about, and I see people lifting weights and I think about the human body and how to maximize things and how to view it, I get very technical in my head to figure out what's the best way to do this. What's the best way to achieve this with the minimal amount of work. I love that because it really is a science. And I don't think a lot of people look at it that way. You're like, wow, you're probably not getting the best use out of those muscle groups by leaning and positioning this way. Why be, like you said. So really looking at it from that perspective was like, okay, it's like opening my eyes to why it's so meticulous to, hit those muscle groups and stuff to get the best, optimal results. So
Exactly. And another thing too, Nia, that you're talking about, that we look on Instagram all the time. We see all these fitness influencers and they're doing the exact same thing that Ingrid is talking about, holding at something, doing their kickbacks. And you have to do more reps to get more of that result that you want and you're not feeling it like really deep in those muscles, which is probably what you're talking about too, Ingrid, right?
Yeah, the chickens are okay. But again, it's all about angles and just kind of being more, and everybody's body is different. So that's another thing. So it's always kind of like finding out, well, what their bodies respond to, how different it is, how can there are people that have different dominant muscle groups. So like if I'm working on, your legs and your glute, but your quads are always kicking in, how can I isolate better? How can I turn them off, turn this on? So it's always kind of like figuring out what's the best way to maximize. And it is science.
Now, what is one of your favorite workout routines? Because girl, you are in the best shape. You're so fit. You look so good. What is something that you don't have to typically do it every day, but what is something that you enjoy doing as far as a workout weekly?
I'm pretty boring. I like just strength training.
Okay.
And I know that that's super boring, but it does. What do I usually say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right. So it's tried and true. A bicep curl is always going to be a bicep curl. So just do the bicep curl. And so I prefer just lifting iron. I have splits. I do my splits. There are a couple days that I do like a short HIIT workout because it keeps you a little bit more leaner and spelt like it, especially women. Like I like what it does to my body in combination with resistance training. And then I'll just walk. I'm not running on the treadmill. We're not doing we don't do a lot of crazy running. Not doing that. I'm 40 plus. Like I'm not doing that. I'm walking on the treadmill. and I find that walking on the treadmill is the most beneficial for me. And for a lot of people that I've trained.
It's so funny you said that because for so long, until probably the past year and a half, I was like, Miss Cardio, Miss Go have to run 2 miles. And I would find myself losing weight to my ideal standard. But I feel like I would lose ass and curves. And the minute I stopped and started eating again, I would gain weight until I started adding the weight training. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see abs, I see definition, I see booty. So, girl, I should have achieved years before.
Cardio can work for you and against you. So, I always tell people if you're going to do cardio and workout and lift, you need to eat for that. Because if not, if I need energy, your energy store, I'm going to start pulling from your muscle. Right. So that's why you get a lot of I call cardio bunny. Get a lot of muscle mass because they're not eating enough or they're doing too much cardio.
Yeah.
And really just to keep the fat down, you just need to walk.
Just walk. Oh, simple. It can be so easy. And that brings me to my next question. So I noticed and I saw that you have Southern Louisiana roots. So, okay, long story short, I'm from Houston. Me and Pamela are from Houston, right? But my mom's side, they're from Opelousas. And I saw you're from Lafayette, right? So we know Louisiana cuisine is the most chef's kiss, delicious, right? So how did you growing up, if you were someone who kind of had an idea of the body and, how did you balance that? The delicious, etouffees and the gumbo and all that good stuff. How do you balance that out?
Well, growing up, I ate it. But I also ran track. I was on the dance team. So I was super active. And we didn't have a thought that food was bad for us. Yeah. There wasn't a feeling. And a little bit of my childhood, I grew up on a farm too. So a lot of the things came from there. So I didn't have a correlation girl, don't eat that. We never had that said at the family until you got a little older. Then they were kind of oh, well. But, when you get older, you start to learn, okay, well, if I'm not as active, then I can't indulge as much. Right. And so I think it's just a balance thing. There, if I go home, my mom now, she'll do red bean. She won't put turkey necks in them, but and then I've learned how to make gumbo for me or put jackfruit in it. It's similar. And it'll be the alternative. Yeah, there's alternatives. And I feel like people shouldn't deprive their self or eat things out of guilt. But I do feel like there should be some sort of a balance.
Gotcha. Moderation. As you said.
Also, what you tell yourself to me matters. So you tell yourself oh, if I keep eating like this, I'm gonna get fat. Well, that's the energy putting out there. So
yeah. That's what they say, you speak your truth, speak that into you, and that's what you live by, honestly.
Very true.
Now, I wanted to ask, I know we're talking about all this good food, the etouffees and the gumbos. So I know you are a plant-based chef. What made you shift from, growing up eating all this good, hearty soul food to now we're doing plant-based? When did that happen?
So that happened when I was competing because I was eating like 6 meals a day, a lot of chicken. And I just felt so like, ugh, like gross and heavy. Even though I was looking good, I still felt heavy. And I just, every time I would do a show, I would like detox from meat for like 3 months and then I would go back. But in those 3 months, I always felt good. Like I always lifted heavier. I felt refreshed and I was like, there's something to this. I remember at the time my show trainer, he was like, girl, no. And this is at a time, this was a very interesting time because I was cooking for people at the time. This is when What the Health just came out. There were a lot of talks around plant-based, but it wasn't quite figured out yet. And then I ended up getting an athlete who was plant-based and I was like, oh, let me go to culinary school and figure out what to cook for him because I didn't feel that me making, fake chicken was optimal for his diet. So I wanted to know strictly plant-wise, what can I do with them? And I did learn a lot of that. And then in cooking that, I was like, well, maybe I could do it for myself. And so I was eating 6 meals a day. So I slowly started replacing those meals with plant-based meals. And then the hardest one to get rid of was actually my morning meal, which was just like egg whites and oatmeal. But I was like, it was just so easy. And I couldn't think of anything at the time that could replace that kind of protein. And then, you just start reading, researching, learning. And that's how I made the switch. There are times I'll go home and, but before when my grandmother was, I have like a piece of fried catfish, but I haven't had meat like beef or chicken or like lamb in, I want to say like 14 years.
Wow.
60 years.
Wow. That's amazing. I'd also add on to that too. And I'm not sure if this is something that you've experienced as well. I'm not fully vegetarian, but for the most part, I eat what my body craves, which is mostly grains, vegetables, anything like that. When you were eating what they call like dead meat, did you get sick? Did you feel like just blah? Was your body just not functioning the way that it was supposed to when you were eating meat?
It's interesting because you look good, but you don't really feel good. And I didn't know the difference until I stopped. And I will say, I didn't drink for like 7 years too.
Oh, wow.
So I stopped I couldn't compete and wake up at like 4 a.m, go do cardio, go train, go teach a class and drink. Like it just didn't fit in the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. So once I did that and the meat, you do feel a lot better. Your skin glows. You drink mostly water. You look good. You feel good. Your joints aren't hurting. You don't have like high inflammation. You're able to sleep better. So there is, to me, a correlation between what we're eating and how our bodies feel. Obviously, I will say, growing up on a farm, our cattle, our like beef came from outside. Our chicken came from outside. And I will say there's something to that too. We could get into a whole thing about it, but I will say, there is something to how things are manufactured now versus how they were manufactured. And so I think part of it is, I have a dairy allergy, and that was another driving force for me to cut stuff out. But when I go to, Italy or, France, I don't have a dairy allergy. So I don't know. I can eat croissant all day and I won't break out. I won't get sick. So I don't know. There's something to that to me.
No, I get that.
Definitely the stuff that, they put in the food. Maybe we don't even realize it's not always the actual food, but what has happened to get the food to be edible or to get the food to no longer be edible, but we're told this is how we're supposed to eat it because of the whole process, preserving it and all that good stuff. So I have to ask you, Ingrid, how did you get into competing Give us a little bit of backstory on that.
That's very interesting. I was going through a divorce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like people go either way. Either they like, eat a lot and get sad, or, I went this way. So I just started like training, and I was working, I was building my business. I have a freaking master's, and I'm working as a bartender, which, it is what it is. You want to build a business. These are things you do. Yeah. And so, I met my coach who helped me with shows while I was a bartender. And I remember him saying, he was like, "You got some great legs to let that go to waste." And I was, I'm a bartender. And I was like, "Who you talking to?" Like, rude. Like, and we was like, no, I train people to compete. And it was a very, trying part of my life. And I will say that fitness really helped in that it's a checkout in a way. It's almost like a meditation, because that's my hour. That's my time. That's right. My time to think or not think. And most of the time is not thinking. I just do. And I just go, I do it. And to me, it's a form of meditation. And that's kind of what I used it as. And I didn't even really pay attention to how my body was changing until one day he was like, "Hey, let's take a look." And I was like, "Damn, bitch is ripped." And I was surprised because you don't really notice it, because you're just, I'm waking up, I'm doing cardio, I'm going to bed, I'm eating a little, it's a routine, and you don't really notice it. And I tell people all the time, like, it's not, the consistency factor is where it is. How long can you keep this up? And, that's how you, get the results. But that's how I got into it. And it was really, it teaches you a lot about yourself.
Okay.
Discipline wise, because there is a very strict kind of like routine you have to follow. And I can't eat out with you, girl. I can't go drink. I can't go to brunch. If I go to brunch, I hold a Tupperware. And my friends who knew me at the time, they'll be like, "Girl, she bought chicken in a plastic, in a Ziploc bag to my wedding." And I did, because this is what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I think, if you could take that discipline and apply it to other areas of your life.
Today's episode of Dynasty Queens is brought to you by Drip Top, the newest, hottest trend in fashion. You guys, if you love fashion, being a trendsetter, looking your best, you can have it all in the palm of your hand. This Drip Top app is what it's about. Fresh trends in fashion. Please believe me, we know what's up. Whether you're into streetwear, the chic style, it doesn't matter. You can be going out a night of the town. We got you. Make sure you check us out. Browse this app. It's at just a drop and click of the tap of the screen. Let's roll. Drip Top.
And the best part of it too is, it's not just about discovering new fashion. It's about the community. It's a full-on community. So you can follow your favorite content creators. You can get tips and tricks to your fashion, whatever you want to do. And on top of that, you can level up your style.
Right.
It's a great thing. So y'all, go ahead and download the Drip Top app. You can get it on Google Play and the App Store, Apple Store. And go ahead and look it up. It's Drip Top, DRIPTOCK, and level up your style today. Also, go ahead and visit the website at www.driptop.com, or you can go ahead and scan the QR code right here on our screen. Y'all, don't forget, stay bold, stay fresh, and stay all together with Drip Top.
To add to that, can you explain to the viewers, though, can there possibly be a flip side to that? For example, extreme training to the point of where you're looking at yourself and you're just like never satisfied, or something that, we call dysmorphia. Have you ever experienced that, or have you trained or been around people who have gone through like eating disorders, or looking at themselves and just never being happy with who they see? And how do you keep that separate from just, competing or training to be your best version of yourself versus an realistic standard, I guess they could say?
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of like twofold. Well, the first thing is competition body, the day of your competition, that's not very unhealthy. You're not drinking water. You're not eating carbs. That's not sustainable.
Mm.
And so that's the first thing I want to say. That is not sustainable. Like you can't live life like that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Um, I will say there's a desire to look like that all the time. And that to me, you know, if your job is fitness, I kind of get it. But we also know what to do to kind of not stay. We always say you stay 3 weeks out. You know, if you have a photo shoot coming up, it won't take me long. If I'm going to shoot something, it won't take me long to get back. So you eat in a way to kind of maintain that. Most of the time, I can do just lifting, no cardio, as long as my diet is pristine. And, you know, like the 80-20 rule, so to speak.
Gotcha.
I will say I've seen a lot of women who do compete who are never satisfied.
Mm.
And you know, that's when they start taking drugs or, you know, start doing other things to always stay in kind of like the forefront or, you know, to stay looking the same. And I think that's a dangerous that could be a very dangerous path to travel. Because when you're not essentially happy in here, it really opens you up to a lot of negative energy. You know, people, and also yourself, your own thoughts. I will say I've never photoshopped my body because I think it's honest to say this is where I am now.
Mhm.
It fluctuates. I think it's honest to show fluctuation. There are pictures of me where I'm like huge, ripped, 145, massive, then like 136, leaned out, normal. Like, and I like to show that because I think that's honest and I think it's okay. And I think it's important to kind of accept and love those different changes because they're beautiful. Like they're all different.
Yeah. Right.
Mm.
For sure.
But I understand how hard that is, especially in the world of social media and in the world of bodies and in the world of, oh, she thick. Or I like it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you like.
Right.
I don't care. But I think that takes a lot to say because everybody cares, you know?
Mhm. Well, I get that because you got to make yourself happy, like you said first. And, you know, that actually brings me to a good point, too. We've got therapy for all these other different aspects of life. I've never heard of like a therapy for like bodybuilders or therapy for people competing because I think that's definitely important because they're not thinking, you know, like you said, you're kind of like monotone. You're just going tunnel vision. You're doing your workouts, you're eating. You're not really thinking or in your emotion of what's going on. So I think that honestly would be a good thing to start for people that are like competing and stuff. What do y'all think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I do feel like, you know, you get people. I feel like when people come into a workout session, it's always some form of therapy. No one comes in. I feel like we're hairdressers. When you go to a hairdresser, you share everything. And it's very similar. And it's very, you know, it's always about around self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because that's usually, you know, what's going on, especially women, but also men. I've gotten a lot of men and it's around self-esteem. I don't feel sexy. I don't feel loved. I don't feel like myself. I don't, you know, like things like that. So I think it can help and then it can hinder, depending on the extreme. But anything on either end to me is extreme.
Absolutely. I wanted to also bring up too, we're talking about self-esteem, we're talking about social media right now and all the different aspects of body image. And, you know, Nia mentioned body dysmorphia as well. This big boom of GLP-1, Ozempic, Wegovy, all this stuff going on. What are your thoughts on this? People just going crazy with, you know, taking all this stuff to lose weight quickly. What do you think about all this going on?
Okay. So, well, first, I believe in science.
Mhm.
You know, medicine is science. I do believe that some people truly need medical intervention.
Mhm.
But I also believe we can't skip the work.
Right.
That makes sense. So no shot could replace understanding your body, healing your relationship with food, building long-term habits. A shot can't fix that. So if someone needs help starting their journey, I don't care. Like, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's valid. And I think that's a healthy way to do something. But if you're like, I don't think it's a quick fix. I think muscle building is longevity. And I feel like just relying on one thing or another won't give you longevity or teach you how to love yourself.
No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Because I feel like it's a fad right now. You know, everybody's like on board. And, you know, initially that was meant for diabetics. You know, it was medication meant for diabetics. And now it's
The trend.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the thing. And I say, if that's something you need, and if you need it to jumpstart, that's fine. But use it to start. Use it to kind of like motivate you to keep moving, to move. And I always tell people your start doesn't have to be like, I'm doing P90X 7 days a week. That's insane. You weren't working out for years. You're gonna like now work out every day. That's not even realistic.
Yeah.
So
Look,
just start with walking outside for like 10 minutes. That's a start.
Yeah.
A start doesn't have to look like anything to anybody else.
Mhm.
Right. And I guess that can go for like weight loss surgery and stuff too, because I feel like perhaps some people, you know, for example, 600-pound life, some people need intervention
Yeah.
as well. So I've heard around, you know, the way that you're like the HIIT, I guess, philosopher. You're like the HIIT queen, right? So
I did write a book on it.
go into a little bit of background and share with the viewers on what that actually consists of. What is HIIT versus regular like resistance training or cardio? And the benefits of it for sure.
Yeah. So HIIT is high intensity interval training. So it's, if you think about regular cardio, like jogging, walking, cycling, that's very steady state, you know, that's I like to call that, you know, depending on what heart rate zone you're in, that's my fat burning kind of like steady state cardio. First thing in the morning, burning some visceral fat type thing. Resistance training is all about building and maintaining muscle, right? So toning, using weights, our body weight, that's what I classify as resistance training. HIIT though, is short bursts of high effort followed by rest. That's kind of like the basis of it. So whether that's sprint training, that's like box jumping or weights as well, it can involve both, but it's always a burst of high effort followed by rest. And that effort is going to depend on who you are.
Mhm.
And rest times depend on where you are in your fitness journey, whether you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, that kind of thing. So HIIT works by kind of like pushing your body to operate near max capacities during those short bursts, which creates what we call like the epoch. So that would be your excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. It's a fancy word for saying your body's going to continue to burn calories throughout the day after the workout ends because you are pushing it to that kind of like max effort. It also improves like your aerobic and your anaerobic fitness, which is super important. Those are two different things. So basically you're looking at improving not only kind of like your cardiovascular endurance, but also your muscular endurance, which I think is important. It will help increase like if you have like insulin issues, that kind of sensitivity. It reduces visceral fat. So I like it. I like to use it, but use it in very strategic ways. I've when I used to teach group fitness, people would do HIIT every day. You can't do HIIT every day. I can't get enough to do HIIT every day. No one is. So I don't recommend HIIT every day, but I do recommend HIIT like 3 times a day. Or, I'm sorry, not a day, 3 times a week. So I recommend, yeah. I did not say 3 times a day, y'all. Let me put that out because they'll say, "Oh, girl, I gotta be." No, no. 3 times a week max, actually. But in between that, you should be resting. You should be doing mobility. You should be doing stretching. You should be doing resistance training. So I like to use all the tools in the toolbox, but there's different times you're going to use those tools.
Got you. So how does the average person determine when to use those tools? Or is that why, we need to reach out to trainers and people that know? Because I'm sure I was listening to you talk a little bit earlier. It kind of looks like sometimes fitness looks different from person to person.
It does. No, fitness is not a one size fit all thing. Everybody has different needs, different desires, and different ways to kind of like get there. If someone has like bad knees and a heavy back, I'm not going to be doing a lot of HIIT. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So it really, I'm going to work on mobility. I'm going to work on healing. I'm going to work on strength training. And then eventually maybe we can get up to that. But I think it's smart to sit down with yourself and say, okay, well, where am I? What do I have going on? And what are my goals? If your goal is to be healthy, that's not that difficult, to be honest, being healthy. Like if you're getting 30 minutes of, cardio 3 days a week and you're doing resistance training and you're eating like, I would even say 70-30. That's a healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
We are confused on what a healthy lifestyle is. That is a healthy lifestyle. This person is healthy, If you have a desire to like, well, I want to get bigger here, and well, now we're getting a little more sculpting. So what does that look like? How do I need to stack your carbs around a leg day versus, not a leg day? So now we talk about things like that, and now we're getting a little more specific. And, someone comes to me and say, I got to be ready to shoot the Avengers in 3 weeks. It's goal time. Like goal time. Like we really got to talk.
That makes sense.
Usually not 3 weeks. This is 3 months, but still that's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it depends on your goal. And so I would tell someone, well, what's your goal and what's your realistic time?
Right.
Your realistic time on how much do you have to spend towards your goal a day, and a realistic time on when you want to achieve your goal.
Got you.
I find that it works. It's fun, and it gives someone something to work towards when they like schedule a photo shoot 6 months out. Schedule a photo shoot.
Right.
Let's have something to work for. It's like it's a little more. It's motivational. So those are the kind of the main things. The time factor.
Okay.
And then, where are you right now? When was the last time you worked out? What ailments do you have? What's going on?
That part.
That's right. Because if there's a metabolic disease, I can't really see you. I need you to get cleared. And I'm very strong on that because I don't want to do something that will hinder you.
Yeah.
And so I have a question as well. So what about, I'm sure you've had, clients that you've trained or worked with over the years who perhaps needed skin removal or wanted to get cosmetic procedures done just to elevate, I guess their self-esteem, overall well-being. What are your particular views on, certain surgeries or getting procedures in general along someone's fitness journey?
Skin removal is a real thing, especially if they lose weight super fast. Yeah. I prefer working with them before. If you're obese, I kind of prefer to work with you before the surgery because I can slowly do it where you don't have so much skin.
Oh, okay.
So that's I prefer that a little bit more. But if it's happened, then yeah, you got to do that, because I mean, we still want to feel good about ourselves. That's not acceptable. When it comes to surgery, I mean, I got my boobs done. I don't have a problem with it, but everybody's looking the same. You know, when I feel like, how do you know what your body's going to look like unless you try?
Yeah.
And how do you know what your best self is unless you try?
Right.
So I always say, why don't you just try to see what your best self is first? You might be surprised. And not discouraging it, but I do feel like a lot of people, we're all looking the same. It's the same thing. It's like cookie cutter. Where's the difference? Where is you in this? And it was something that's not, and I've heard, I've had friends that have done surgery, and I've heard all the, well, this, I want to be happy. That's an interesting thing. Happiness through a surgery. That's a very fun line to walk.
Or maybe their motivations are reasoning, because some people will say, oh yeah, my man, he likes that badonkadonk, so I'm gonna go ahead and, do that thing,
I'm gonna go on record right now and say,
because that's something you want to do. And then I guess
don't do nothing for me.
I'm
I'm gonna say that right now, because I will go on, do not do anything for, meaning, don't change your body for a man. Don't get a tattoo for a man. Don't, child.
Don't do anything for a man.
On everything that I know, if it's part of my life, that will be the biggest mistake you can do, because they don't even like themselves telling you to change your body.
Ooh,
that is so true.
Yeah.
Change. My response to that is, change your body. Get think about it.
Right.
Get some hair. Grow a little. Get some hair. I mean, grow some hair. Do that.
Because they be the first ones that want to tell you to change something, and they need all the work in the world. No.
Go to therapy. How about that? Go to therapy. Stop hurting everybody and go to therapy.
That.
Change yourself. So I that's the driving force for surgery. That is not. That's not what we're doing over here.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not against it. I do feel I'm not against it, but I do feel like we should take back, as women, in a way, the narrative of this in our bodies, and say, I'm going to do what actually feels good to me. And I think individuality is great, because, somebody sent me a post the other day about with the 80s Jet girl, the Jet magazine, and they were all so different. And they all have different body types. And I think that's great. And I would love if we get back to a place of more appreciation for us. And we are individually, without the noise of the culture, or.
And when you scroll, you made such a good point about individuality too, Ingrid, because you go on Instagram and you see the same body type, you see the same girls, you hit the algorithm the right way, and it's the same ass, it's the same titties, same doctors, girls doing the same damn thing on a 30-second reel. So we're losing touch and losing sight of just people in general, honestly. And like you said, we need to get back to that. Now, I did want to ask you too, and just the background story of this and everything. I know you did the virtual Essence Festival.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
I did the wellness, when the wellness kind of tent, or the wellness portion of Essence first came up. I was part of that, and I taught a class. And so the virtual Essence came up during 2020, when they had to cancel it.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that through the same person that I worked with before. And it was such an honor to see that wellness aspect take place at Essence, especially for Black women.
Yeah.
I always feel like there's a disconnect in the community between what is wellness, what does it look like for us, what does it feel like for us, I'm not going to work out after I did my hair, so I understand.
Right. True.
Most of the time, just yesterday, it was in a clip, honey. But I'm like, I get it. So what does it look like for us? How can we sustain it? But also, what does it look like for us from a mental standpoint because of things we have been through? So I do believe what they did a good job with is bringing all that in, because a lot of times when we think of working out, it's from a very, I'm going to just say, mainstream point of view.
Okay.
It's from, not necessarily driven by us. So that aesthetic, that look is something that is very mainstream. So what does it look like for us to step into that space and own it? And how does that differ? So I was very honored to be a part of that and to kind of like help with that messaging and talk to people afterwards. And, that's kind of what I, do now with clients. I don't think the goal is to be skinny. I think the goal, if that's a aftermath from it, that you feel good, then that's fine. But I think the goal is to be healthy and to feel good and to be able to move like, what's her name? She's like 76 or 77. Be able to look like Miss Babbitt at 77. I think that's the goal. She was amazing. You look her up after. She was amazing, like amazing. And I think as we are getting older, as we are being, just Black women in general, as we were being, more vocal about what's going on with us and our bodies, whether it's perimenopause or menopause, and able to kind of like stand in our own truths about it, that's going to be what wellness looks like for us. And that's going to be our messaging and how we kind of created space to help each other.
Right. So true. So I guess I have a two-part question. The first part is for yourself. Is there like a woman in your line of work, perhaps the woman who did professional bodybuilding, or someone who is a great trainer, or someone who, had a legacy in fitness, or even in a particular sport that resonates with you and you were like, wow, this person really influenced me growing up? And then the second part of that, how important is it for trainers who have had some type of procedure or surgery to let that be known kind of in their mission statement that, hey, I got this work done? And do you, how important is that? Like the role model and the truth behind the role model.
Okay, the second part I can answer really quickly.
Okay.
Integrity.
Yeah.
That's all it is to it. You either have integrity or you don't. And I feel like being honest, you can't sell a 6-week grow your booty when you got a BBL. Sorry. I'm not mad that you got it, but to try to sell it now, I think that's misleading. I think that's actually lack integrity. So I would definitely say, be upfront. Okay, like, who cares? It really won't stop the majority of people from purchasing it, but I think it's honest. I think it fits into what's actually, if you really want to go there for marketing, market that. I got a BBL. This is how I'm balancing my legs. Mm-hmm. This is how I'm growing my hamstrings. This is how I'm like, be honest about it. Right. And you teach others who are doing the same thing to grow in that capacity. Right. But do you come from you gonna come from like a flat butt to this in 6 weeks? That's not realistic. Uh-uh. What are we doing? And so I do believe that integrity. Now, growing up, my idols were like, I am Dominique Dawes.
Okay.
Oh, Gail Devers. Those were like my women, because I always, my arms have always been muscular. I was in high school and they called me Tina Turner arms. So those have always been, I've never really seen women that were like that until those women came. And I was like, oh, they're muscular. They look great, but they still look feminine.
Yes.
And so those were kind of like, you know, the women I looked up to. When Gail Deaver stepped on the track, it was like, okay.
Yes. Okay. Legend. Mm-hmm.
I love how, I'm going to go back real quick when we're talking about us and how we perceive what fitness is for us. Being a personal trainer, I know I've seen a lot of things where people are just really pretentious at the gym, and it makes other people that are starting their journey uncomfortable, and that may or may not be an excuse, but it's a reason why they don't go to the gym. What would you tell someone that is wanting to start their fitness journey, but they're too afraid to go to the gym just due to judgment and other things?
That's so real, gym intimidation. And, I have a lot of men who talk about that too. And I just want to say, well, one thing I do offer is I do virtual training. And most of my girls who do virtual training take me in the gym. I feel like if you know how the equipment works and you know how to use it, then that takes away from the intimidation. I do also feel like I wish sometimes I can go and help, because I could kind of tell sometimes, like, as a trainer, you would kind of like, when I first started, I was like, oh, well, let me help you with your barm. And, you get told off and you're like, damn, okay. Wait. So it was always like balance where you're just like, oh, should I do it? Should I? You never know. But I will say, if anybody sees me in the gym, feel free to ask me anything. I love it. But I do think what would help is to kind of like pull up YouTube, pull up how to use certain machinery, and that will probably get you started. Take a picture of the machine, load it into ChatGPT, say, what is this? How do I use it? It's like, we have so many resources now where you can kind of like do that. I also wouldn't start with anything super heavy weight wise. There are times you could go in the gym where there's not a lot of people, and that's usually like later at night or right in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. So I would also choose those times. I like those times personally. I don't like fighting for equipment, but also because, I understand what it's like to just be uncertain, unsure in that kind of environment. That's a very aggressive environment, especially depending on what gym you go to. I go to Gold's Gym Venice. They're very aggressive.
Oh,
isn't that crazy? But yeah, but me too. So we'll be crazy together. But so it could be intimidating depending on the gym, especially. Also, I find like maybe find smaller gyms. Sometimes something smaller, something cozier where there's one person working. You can say, hey, how do I use this? Or what can I use this for? I always think that works. But when in doubt, YouTube too, that helps. But also, you belong there. You belong there, and you have a right to be there.
yeah.
So don't be, don't let them intimidate you. They're just as uncertain. Everyone carries around the same thing almost inside. It's just depicted in a different way.
Very true. And no trainer abuse, because I know some trainers can be really mean.
Wait, what?
No trainer abuse, like, and trainers are like really a little too aggressive, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen some on Instagram where I'm saying some things. Maybe that, I don't know. Maybe that works to him. I don't know.
You know what you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, different strokes, different folks. Cause
that doesn't work for me or my personality. But plus, I always feel like this is where people are at their most vulnerable. So it's a safe space. I'm not going to like make you feel bad for working out.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Because at least there it's a start, right? They want to be there, so make them want to continue to go. I think their initial experience has to be worthwhile, and I think that's why a lot of people may stop or quit early on. It's because they do feel discouraged, or perhaps they do feel intimidated. So Great tip to explain for sure.
tip because I like Joey Swole. I watch his content and I love
Yeah.
how he just brings so much gym positivity. So if you're not familiar with Joey Swole, he basically posts different videos of people in the gym like making fun of other people for working out, and it's just ugly energy. And his thing is mind your own business. And I didn't realize when you're working out and stuff, I kind of have tunnel vision. I'm not worried about other people. And seeing that, it's just like there's like a sheath over me. I'm like, I didn't even know this was a real thing. I thought this was staged. I had no idea people actually did this kind of stuff to other people.
So Joey Full is great. And I used to, he used to work out Gold's Gym in North Hollywood years ago. And I met him a couple times, but he's like that in real life. Like he's nice. Yeah. But I think in this culture with videos now and in content create that's not a real gym culture. We don't act like this. And so it's kind of hard. I hate filming myself in the gym. I'll film myself in my garage, but I hate bringing a camera into the gym because I feel so weird about taking up space for other people. And so you'll rarely see videos of me in the gym, like unless someone else is filming it, or if like a small gym. I just don't like putting people. I don't like the uneasiness it brings, because of things like that. And so I just find that whatever this new culture is where we're going to videotape someone making a mistake is insane.
Right.
Like people are there to learn. Yes, you will just like in life, you make mistakes in life. That's not a time for you to condemn them or to make fun of them or to use them. I can honestly say, I've never done that. I will, and I've never seen anything, I think I've only helped someone once to the point where I thought, was dangerous, but that was like turning off a treadmill or something like that in group fitness a lot that, that happens. But safety is above anything. And if you see something that is unsafe, then you should say something and not, film them.
Definitely. Wow. Just all these different perspectives and things to think about when it comes to fitness and training in general.
Yeah.
So Ingrid, can you please let the viewers know where to find you and then also what's coming next for you? So let us know what you have in store for the rest of the year, and then also share like your handles and, stuff you get out there for the folks.
Sure. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Ingrid S. Clay. And I'm working with Center Still, which is Chris Hemsworth's app, and that's been very good. So we have some good programs coming up with them. One of the programs that just launched is a dumbbell only at home workout. So that is really good for people who do have a gym intimidation. Your home is your safe space. So cut a little corner and start there. That's a good place to start, is at home. Nobody's watching you. You're good. And they also have one that focuses on women 40 plus and a different lifting style for, perimenopause and menopause and entering that world, the world of hormones and how that can impact weight loss and all that interesting stuff. Yeah, it's been very interesting to get into all that as I am entering into all that. So I will say I haven't noticed anything significant yet, although I do feel like I just get tired quicker.
Right. Yeah. I believe it's so important also for women to like tap into like as they're changing the milestones. I never thought about that. You probably need to tackle fitness in different ways as you're going through those changes and like just make it happen.
I think you should be tackling it different in the 30s, in the 40s, as you progress, because things change. If you're 20 years old and you're fit, why shouldn't you be? Like you're young, you're good. Like I'm in better shape now than I was in my 20s, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I look a lot better now than I did in my 20s, and just like lifting. I didn't work out in my 20s.
And it's a lifestyle change too, girl, because, you're plant-based, you're not drinking, you're really healthy too. I'm sure back in your 20s, you were, doing, it's not cheap.
When I did undergrad in New Orleans, coming
Oh, yeah, you were having a good old time.
weekends were fun. All the drinking, geez. But yeah, it's a lifestyle change, and you get older. I will say, as you get older, I always tell my clients, and if you're 30 plus, you should be recovering and training at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're training for an hour, you need to be recovering for an hour, because the body doesn't respond the same. So mobility to me is super important. Stretching. Can you get off the ground without using your hands? Right. Or a simple tap. Can you get off? Can you get out of the seat in the airplane without grabbing onto the back of the seat?
Ooh.
That is the test. Because I'm tired of y'all grabbing onto the back of the seat. It's so annoying. Use your legs. Use your abs and get up on your own. But I think these are all tests. And I think it goes to mobility and it goes to movement. And these are very simple things that you could try at home and see where you are. And I think that's a good test to see where you are. See where you are. And if you are 40 plus, mobility should be a huge part of your training.
Yeah. Dude, that arthritis and stuff can creep in, and oops, my goodness.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for like seniors, like you're 65 plus? What would you recommend for our seniors out here?
So I worked with seniors who've had strokes and who are getting their mobility back. And we take a very basic approach. I don't want to say basic because it's actually very hard for them. But they first start by just sitting in a chair and using their hands to get out the chair, and then using their hands to sit back into the chair. And usually as we progress, they're not using hands anymore. And then from there, we take it to adding weight to that. So it's a very slow progression. And we'll do the same thing with the upper body. But I do think, seniors, the more they move, they slow down the aging process. When I've seen it happen. I have seen it happen. I've seen people have strokes, and then I've worked with them, and they've gone from like no pull-ups to 5 pull-ups. That's a lot, by the way. 5 pull-ups. I know people don't think that's a lot, but that's a lot. 5 pull-ups is a lot. Try it. Can you do 5 please? So I always say, start small. And you'll be surprised where you go. So my seniors, start small, but move.
Yeah.
But ooh, I love that. Just in every phase. And I do respect the authenticity as well. I feel sometimes when people have a platform when it comes to fitness and, well-being, that they kind of may fabricate, exaggerate, or leave parts of the story out. So I'm getting the vibes that, you kind of gave us a full interpretation of, no, what about this and that? And no, I did party when I was in school, and I didn't work out like that when I was in my 20s. And, so I just respect the full clarity and, of the journey. So, yes. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for stopping by the Dynasty Queens house today. We appreciate you so much. Viewers, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also comment if you have any additional questions for Ingrid. But we just love you, having you here, and hope to have you in person for,
Yes.
a little workout routine. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. That would be fun.
That'd be so fun. Yeah. So in closing, I am your girl, Nia J. I'm with my beautiful co-host,
Pamela Nicole.
and this has been Dynasty Queens. Peace out.